All right. So welcome to the AAPA Mentorship Program info session. Here's what today's going to look like. We're going to spend some time on some quick introductions. We're going to go through what AAPA's programs look like. We're going to have our alumni panel discussion, again, a Q&A portion, and then we'll close out with some resources for you. And I am the executive director of AAPA. Hello, my name is Karen. I'll be the moderator and hosting the event for you today. I'll also be your main contact person for if you're curious about the programs. Here's our panelists for today. We have Eddie Choi, who is a mentor of our mentorship program, and then Mei Kwan, who is a Toastmaster officer, as well as a previous mentee of our mentorship program. So I'm just going to explain what our programs are real quickly. We not only have our amazing mentorship program, which is a year-long program where you receive one-on-one mentorship. You get, we have this really great matching process that we do to ensure that the mentee and the mentor have this great relationship to start off with for the year. And you pretty much work through your professional goals alongside some curated workshops and events in our mentorship program. We also have a board leadership program, which is a 6-month program where you receive practical training on how to be a board member of a nonprofit board. There's also a really interesting internship component, so really creating that pipeline into leadership positions through our board leadership program. And then, of course, we have our AAPA Toastmasters Club, where you can work on your communication skills. And I'll have one of our officers are here today to elaborate a little more on what Toastmasters is and does. So Edward or May, do you want to talk about Toastmasters for a minute?
Edward, you could go ahead.
Oh, sure. Yeah, Toastmasters is part of the Toastmasters International, and our club is the parent organization is AAPA, but we pretty much come together to support each other. We're there to practice our communication skills. It could be anything from just networking, doing presentations. It could also involve just maybe personal development. Just to have yourself like practice, be a better communicator, and we meet twice a month. So and we support each other. It's a good way to come together and just practice, because that's the only way to really get better is to continue in practicing. And it's a pretty friendly group. And I've been with Toastmasters for, what was it, maybe 2018. It's been a while. Time flies. I almost forgot that pandemic period kind of just flew by. But I've been with Toastmasters around since 2018, and I still continue to go back, mostly because of the camaraderie we have and how I feel like I could develop my own skills. I had a presentation I had to do at work at one point, and it really helped me to just feel confident, and just because I had that practice in the background to kind of do that presentation. So yeah, that's kind of our club. If you have more questions, we can take it as we go along. And May, you have anything to add to that?
Thanks, Edward. Yeah, so our club, our mission is to provide a supportive and positive learning experience for our members to develop communication and leadership skills. So our club is one of the few clubs that meets on a Saturday morning. So we meet every second and fourth Saturday of the month from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. So it's a great way to kickstart your weekend. So you do Toastmasters in the morning, and then you still have the rest of the weekend to do whatever you want. So yeah, I joined Toastmasters May last year after hearing about it from my mentor, and after visiting the club and seeing just how friendly and supportive the group is, I decided to join the club, and also as a club officer. So I hope to see everyone, or we always welcome any guests. So if you have any questions about our meetings, feel free to contact Karen or check out our website on the AAPA Toastmasters site.
Great. Thank you, Edward, and thank you, May. Really appreciate y'all jumping in and sharing with us what Toastmasters is all about. And lastly, I'll just run through what our virtual idea talks are. They are virtual discussions that actually we created this during the pandemic because we weren't able to be in actual physical space with one another. We wanted to continue to create space, but also bring in topics that were really important to the community at the time. So we've evolved. I think it started with, very COVID focused topics like supporting employees, what's the new norm, and we pivoted to supporting millennials in the workplace, assertiveness, and how you can be assertive in the workplace. So there's a really diverse topics that we cover here. And this is how you can stay in touch with us, right? So we are all over social media. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and our website that May mentioned is aapamentoring.com. If you have your smartphone with you, you can also hover over that QR code and it should take you straight to our link tree, which has all the links for you for our social media and then some. So if you are curious to learn more about the mentorship program, Toastmasters, and board leadership program, everything is through that link. So at this time, I will go ahead and stop sharing screen and open up the panel discussion. And I always like this part of the discussion, especially in the Zoom room. And I guess I kind of missed it for a while. This is our first session of the year in seeing everyone's little boxes on the screen. So welcome everyone, good to see you again. Happy that you're here and happy to answer any questions that you have about our programs. And so again, I will bring up May Kwan, who you've heard from already. And then I'd like to also introduce you all to Eddie Choi, who is our mentor of our mentorship program. And so Eddie, since May has somewhat introduced herself earlier, why don't we start with you? Tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you find AAPA and our mentorship program?
Okay, great. Well, hello to everyone. Thanks for joining. Yeah, how did I find AAPA and a little bit about myself? I've been working at Disney for over 27 years now at Imagineering, Walt Disney Imagineering. So we do all the theme parks and resorts design and construction. So I'm a project manager there. And I think really what motivated me was I started to be more and more interested in just mentorship and passing on kind of the knowledge and information, kind of all the mistakes I made, and wanted to see if I could help other people along. And also not only doing that internally at Disney, I started to look at some nonprofit orgs outside, and also specifically, I did want to give back to the AAPI community. I think there still is I think a bamboo ceiling for many of us if you're in a corporate setting. And so I feel like, what, maybe if I can help in any way or inspire someone to keep going and keep pursuing and doing great work and great leadership, then, why not, right? I think we need to break that bamboo ceiling.
Absolutely. Thank you, Eddie, for sharing that. I also notice it's strange if I'm talking to you and I'm not spotlight, so add myself here. May, why don't you introduce yourself again, just add a little bit about maybe what you're doing now and then how you found AAPA.
Thanks, Karen. Hi, everyone. I'm May Kwan, and I'm a former mentee through the AAPA mentorship program. I just finished last year, and I found out about AAPA through my former colleague, Andrew Chung at SoCal Gas. So Andrew had held an info session at work to discuss the mentorship program. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to expand my network in a hybrid environment because we were still kind of getting back to normal. And with the pandemic quarantining, I have to say it did make me like a bit of a hermit. So I felt like joining the mentorship program would be a good way for me to be more social again. So I joined the mentorship program and also the networking planning committee. So it was a good way for me to meet other mentors and mentees. And the great thing about the APA members portal is you have a whole directory of mentors and mentees. So you may be assigned a specific mentor, but you're free to reach out to really anyone and in that directory to get to know them more if you're curious about what they do. So yeah, that was a great experience. And I guess what I do right now, so I'm a senior engineer at GTI Energy. So we're a nonprofit gas research services company. So we work with gas utilities around the country, and my focus is on hydrogen and how it can be used as a decarbonization pathway. And also I am a club officer for AAPA Toastmasters. So since joining in May, I decided to sign up to be the VP of public relations as well. So yeah, nice to meet everyone.
Thank you so much, May, for sharing. So I think you all touched on some really great points that I wanted to highlight. A is that at every level, mentorship is helpful, right? At every level of your career, whether you're coming in as a mentee or whether you're coming in as a mentor. And one thing I usually share at the very beginning is that mentors learn so much from their mentees, right? Most of the time folks think, oh, it's just a mentee coming in to be mentored, right? And it's really just a one-way type of mentoring that happens, but it really is not. And I think what's beautiful about our mentorship program is that I really, connect with the mentors and find out like how I do check-ins right throughout the year with folks. And I always love to hear mentors say, oh, I learned so much from my mentee this year, right? I thought, I was just old enough to not learn anything, right? Most of the time folks are like, oh, I've been through my experiences. I went through a whole career already, so many transitions. And I didn't think that I had more to learn, but my mentee taught me so much. So that's one area where, every year that happens. And I think it's beautiful because we're always learning. There's no way that we cannot stop learning, right? And the more people that we're interacting with, the more things that we learn. And because we come from different levels in our career, and different backgrounds, there's just so much to learn from diversity and challenges, right? And I like to refer back to what somebody shared with me about a mentor, is that mentors, they really walk through the door with you, right? In a sense, they hear about what your goals are. They want to help you through your goals. And for the most part, you want to align with someone who's been through similar experiences so they can help you through that because they've been through it too, right? So I really want to highlight the giving back and also the different levels that folks come in as mentors and mentees. And the both of you shared something that I also want to highlight is that folks find us and our program through different channels, right? Through either their ERGs and BRGs, recently through pandemic, of course, through online platforms, right? So through our social media channels and through Google, like Eddie mentioned. And then we partner with a lot of corporations like SoCalGas, like May mentioned, Edison, Bank of America, CNB, right? So if there's ever a large corporation or company that you work with or your friends work with or your colleagues, introduce them to AAPA because this is where that partnership happens. Sponsorships happen where your company can sponsor you into our program and into our training programs. So just a couple areas that I just, a lot of folks don't think that you have the opportunity through your employer to tap into programs like this, but you do. So thank you both for sharing that aspect of our program and how we operate. And I do want to ask you, for folks who might be thinking about, right, the program and they're maybe not sure, or, if you can share maybe some things that you had to research before you actually made the decision to join our program, what that was, and then, what you would recommend for someone that might be going through that same like, thinking about it stage. Whoever wants to jump in first.
You want to go, May, or you want me to go? Oh,
Yeah, oh, I can go. So when I was deciding who I wanted to be my mentor, I did my research by going on the AAPA website and looking at the different mentors' profiles and their biographies to get to know their backgrounds, if we share any similar experiences or what they're working on now. So I did my preliminary search through that, and then I attended the meet and greet and had questions ready to help me decide my final mentor picks. And yeah, that was really helpful doing that research ahead of time, looking through the biographies, because the meet and greet goes by really quick. It's almost like speed dating, like the breakout rooms. So you only have a few minutes with each mentor to ask questions. So yeah, do your homework and read the biographies.
Yeah, I think if I heard your question correctly, at least for me, instead of researching and picking and choosing, if you're still on the fence of whether or not to join, either to be a mentee or a mentor, there are multiple nonprofit orgs out there. I would say when I tried to look and see different ones, this AAPA at least felt like having the mentorship program. I am actually interested at some point doing the board leadership program and the Toastmasters Club. I think those three seem like a great package of different types of ways to get involved and kind of grow yourself, as well as help give back as well. And so though that was unique to AAPA. Other nonprofit orgs, I think, do focus maybe more on the mentorship side of things. But I thought the response as well from Karen and Francis and leadership, they're always kind of reaching out. They're not going to get back to you like a month later. They're very responsive. So I appreciated that. That helps a lot to have leadership for AAPA that are really interested in every person, very passionate of what they do, and that goes a long way. So that made my choice easy.
Thank you for sharing that, Eddie, and appreciate your response to May. I think I'll also share that luckily we're still small, right? So that's one thing where we're able to show that we care through one-on-one calls, right? And I think for folks that usually reach out with questions, we do make time to talk to you. So I think, Eddie, with your application that came through, we scheduled a call, right? Scheduled a call, kind of wanted to find out, did you have any questions? We also have questions for you, right? And the main thing for us is to find alignment, what makes sense for us to work together, because essentially you're volunteering your time to be part of our organization as a mentor, right? This is a volunteer position. So you want to make sure that your time is valued, and we also want to ensure that your time is valued here, and that folks gain value from you, right? And you also gain value from your mentees. So it's like all around alignment and what makes sense. So we do have a process, right? There's a committee, we reach out, we have conversations, and we want to ensure that it is a good match, So this is also why we host these info sessions, because we understand that if we can have an event and answer everyone's questions, as much as we can in an info session, we will definitely want to take the time to do that. But of course, if you want to reach out to us, we are available to you. So very happy to hear that we made your choice easy, Eddie, and that you're with us now. So I do want to find out, addition to that, is what your main takeaway was from the program. I'd like to hear from you, Eddie, as a mentor, your main takeaway. I think you completed your first year as a mentor last year. Is that correct?
Yeah, last year was my first year, and it was very unique. my mentee, she is a Afghan refugee college student, and so it was just a fascinating mentor-mentee relationship. Just getting to know her and her culture and background, and just the type of conversations we had. I've been used to many much more career specific oriented type mentor mentee relationships, but that one was a combination of career and just how to live life in the US, right? And so that was fascinating. Very great experience I had. So,
Thank you, Eddie. And then May, I know in your previous response, you mentioned the matching process, right? And I wanted to touch a little bit about that is, again, about alignment. We really ensure that the mentee receives the information to make a choice and picking a mentor. And then of course we go to the mentor and say, hey, you're chosen by this mentee. Here's their information. Do you see alignment here? And do you want to be matched with this mentee for the year, right? So we have a really intentional matching process. And so May, I would like to ask you the same question is what was your main takeaway from the program after going through the year? And then of course, joining Toastmasters. So it's not like you really completed the program, right? You're still with us in other programs, which I think is great. And a lot of people do that. But if you don't mind sharing what your takeaway was from the mentorship program.
Sure. I think with the mentorship program, I really saw like how having someone who is more experienced than myself to provide guidance like helps me see things from a different perspective and also consider things that I haven't thought of. So I was really lucky to have my mentor be there when I was preparing for a job interview. It's been a while since I had interviewed for another company, so I was rusty. And having her there providing advice, tips, especially with like a virtual interview, just like little things like even lighting. So like thanks to my mentor, I now have a ring light. That's why I'm very shiny right now. But after I got the job offer, there was the whole negotiation process. So she was there to help me navigate that and also preparing for the new job, the onboarding process. Just like she was there like the entire time. So having her there be my support system, I was really lucky. And it's the great thing about mentorship is you have someone there who is available to answer questions or like navigate through tough situations like transitioning to a new job. So I'm just very grateful I have my mentor there with me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, May. I think it also brings to mind that similar to what Eddie mentioned is that it's kind of a mix, right, of your professional development and career goals, but it trickles into your personal life because how can it not, right? So it's like these big transitions are really important for your overall well-being. And, having a sounding board, right, to just even talk about things out loud, right, get it out of your head and say it out loud. Sometimes it's just so powerful because once you hear it out loud, you can either go, oh, that sounds different, or I didn't think about it that way, right? And your mentor can say, maybe this is a different perspective. Have you thought of this, right? And it's so powerful to just have another person as a sounding board to just work through things with you. I think that's been a major component of having mentors and mentees, right? Sometimes mentors will say, well, I have this idea, let me run it by you. And sometimes a mentee can bring such great insight, which is a lot of the times what I hear from mentors, because either you're going through a transition yourself, you're in a different part of your life, and sometimes mentees have their ear closer to the ground of what's happening, in either corporate America or with technology, right? And you just say something and they're like, oh, that's not what's happening now. And you're like, oh, I didn't know that. So lots of learning happening. And I really appreciate you both sharing that. I think it does make me feel warm and fuzzy inside, because I love hearing folks' personal stories and how the program has helped you through. Just, even in a year, so much growth happens, and I'm always witness to that growth. And I love that about, what I do. So I guess last question, and then we'll funnel in questions from participants that are here, is I like to say how you felt like the program impacted you, right? Personally, professionally, what was like the biggest impact that you feel like, oh, you really made a great choice, sticking through and with the program? Because I do want to mention, not a lot of folks will complete the program. Sometimes life happens, but to see it through, completed, and now being in this space and time, like, what do you feel impacted you the most? Either one. So you can go first.
All right, I can go first. So I'd say, last year was probably, a very unique mentor-mentee relationship, and never had met anybody from Afghanistan. So, just opening my eyes to a different culture, different way of viewing things, even the basic questions of what we all assume is, you know, some of our topics got pretty deep into, things like, well, why are, certain positions of leadership mostly, Caucasian people, or, all these really interesting questions that I think she brought up, that, I had to think about it for a little bit and say, oh, you know what, that's a good question. And so it made me grow. Honestly, those questions, what I would say is, when you're prepared with questions or things to talk about and discuss, I think it just makes the whole time really worth it, because you start growing with each other in terms of, sparking new ideas or different ways of thinking that I would never have thought about. And so yeah, so that was just an amazing experience for me.
May?
I think, well, my mentorship experience was very positive, and it was really great timing, because having my mentor there as I was transitioning jobs, which was a big change for me, because I was with my previous company for 8 years, and it was the first time I changed companies. So having a support system there to help me go through that transition was really beneficial. And also, I found out about Toastmasters through the mentorship program, and now I'm a part of Toastmasters, and it's a great group of people to practice public speaking with. So I decided to join because the group is just so supportive and friendly, and for you to practice public speaking, you have to be vulnerable. So you have to feel safe. And I felt safe with my Toastmasters group. So that's why I'm a part of it. And I can see myself being a part of the club for a long time. And I think after going through the mentorship program and seeing just how beneficial mentorship is, I'm right now trying to create a mentorship program at work for our women's professional network. So at my company, the gender is skewed. It's very male dominated, and it's nice to have like this specific group for women, to support women. And I think creating a mentorship program would further things, because you have a bunch of new employees who may be remote or early career, and having a more experienced member who is also a woman to provide guidance and support, I think that would be very beneficial. So yeah, it's the mentorship program was a great choice.
Thank you, May and Eddie. love your responses. And I think you touched on so many things, but what reminded me, what came to mind when you were speaking was this community that we've built, right? And it's not uncommon to hear folks say, oh, I started as a mentor, a mentee, and then a mentor, then I joined the board leadership program, and I'm also in Toastmasters. Similarly to what Edward shared earlier about Toastmasters, is that he's been here since 2018, maybe, but it's been a long time, right? And it's not uncommon because we've created such a safe community of folks that have so much common ground, and learn so much from one another, that folks really do stick with each other and us for a long time. And I know we have folks in the meeting today that have been with us with AAPA for 20 years and we are a 23-year organization now. So I think it's very special to know that an organization has been around for that long and that people stick with the organization for that long. I think it's telltale of how we're developing people and developing a community. So thank you both for sharing your insight, your experiences, and your knowledge. And I do want to take some questions. I know I saw a hand or two pop up while we were finishing up this last question. It might have been Pokil. If you had a question, Pokil, do you want to unmute or pop it in the chat?
Oh, I just want to share with the group an email I received from one of our mentees about what he learned from AAPA. It's in an email that I already sent to you, Karen, so you can take it from there.
Okay, thanks, Pokil. I can't pull up my email right now, but if you have it, you can read it if you wanted to share.
Okay, so this mentee said he put together several bullets that summarize his experience with AAPA mentoring. And so what he said is that through AAPA mentoring, he learns to behave and think more managerially, since he wants to become a manager in the short term, get promoted into a managerial position. He gets help from his mentors as to how to mitigate his flaws and shortcomings at work, how to present himself in a more positive light to the leadership, and how to just gain more confidence in growing and advancing his career at work. And at the end of the mentoring period, he got promoted. So a great story.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Pokil. And for folks who aren't aware, Pokil is one of our longtime mentors, been with AAPA for a very long time. I won't age you, Pokil, but has a wealth of knowledge. So thank you for being here, Pokil. All right, so we have a few minutes, about 10, to filter any questions you all might have, or if folks want to add to the conversation, please feel free to pop it in the chat, or if you want to unmute and ask your question, I think we have a great group to do that. So please share the space. And I've also shared some links in the chat for folks. I shared our mentorship program link and our Toastmasters link. And then I'll also share some deadlines coming up. But if does anyone want to unmute and either add to the conversation or share or ask a question?
I will, this is Jack. I'll add a thought. Francis, you're here. You were my captive audience a few months ago to learn a little bit about the mentorship program that I ran for 30 years. And I offer through you, now that you know some things about it, if there's ever anything I can do, just help, advice, talk, share, particularly with the mentors, I would suspect. But in any way, please know I'm available. Okay, thanks, Karen.
Thank you, Jack. I think it's also helpful to share that we have so much collaboration, right? So I'll share that AAPA has recently updated our mission. It is to advance Asian American professionals to leadership roles through training, networking, and collaboration. And so, Jack, you mentioned something that we are very focused on and do with intention is collaborate. And I think May has mentioned it, Eddie has mentioned it also, that we want to lift each other up by working together. My personal philosophy, right, is that we're on the same team here. We're all doing the same thing on the same side. There's no competition, and there's no threat. And what I love about the community that we continue to grow is that we offer collaboration and we offer resources. So thank you, Jack, for saying that. I think a lot of folks in our community are always open and willing to help. And it just says a lot about the people that we're connected with, right? And Eddie, you mentioned it earlier, is just like giving back, right? Not having someone like yourself when you were kind of going through this process and being able to say, hey, this is what I learned. Let me help you through this process. And a question came up earlier about being at a certain level, right? To be a mentor. So Eddie, do you want to talk a little bit about that process for you?
Yeah, I think someone asked, well, you must be a CEO or some high level executive to be a mentor. And I'd say, you know what, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think, number one, I think you got to have the will and the heart to want to give and want to, build a relationship with someone, because that's basically what a mentor mentee, situation is. It's building a relationship where you feel like you can trust each other to then share your kind of journey of, hey, you know what, I'm going through this situation, I'm trying to look for another job, what would you do in this situation? Or there's all kinds of conversations, and hopefully you'll have some experience. I don't think you have to be at a 20-30 year experienced senior executive to be a mentor, but having some experience obviously helps, to kind of share that with that person. But just talking through it, even preparing, right? Once I found out, my mentee was interested in entertainment, then I would do a little bit of homework and finding out, hey, here are certain writing classes that you can look into through some of my connections that, hey, why don't you apply for it? Or so it's not that I knew everything, but I was willing to be there to help the mentee.
Thank you, Eddie. And I think that is so key, that willingness to help, right? And that willingness and the want to give back in some way. So I'll also share the link if you're curious or want to become a mentor. It's a very short application that you can fill out. But one of the questions that we do ask, right, when we're somewhat vetting mentors to come in, new mentors especially, is if you have had some type of mentoring experience in the past. And I'll share, Eddie, you touch on something where you don't necessarily have to have that specific experience, right? You don't have to have been a mentor before, because the mentees that come into the program are actually very diverse, right? Not everyone is at a managerial level, right? Or VP level or senior level. We actually had folks seek us out that were trying to transition out of corporate America into maybe their own small business, or they were going into venture capital, or these different industries that aren't necessarily corporate. And so we look for diverse experience, not just mentoring experience, because sometimes someone's just looking for that key transitional experience, right? How did you get from corporate to being your own boss, right? An entrepreneur? Or how did that happen, and what did that transition look like? And that in itself is what a mentee would want. And so we look for that, right? We ask these questions that are like, well, tell us, what do you do? How can you, what in your life experience and career experience that you think that you can contribute and bring value to someone, right? And so that's what we're looking for when we're asking and essentially talking to you, to see, why you're curious about being a mentor. And that's really all the experience you really need, right? That willingness to give back and to support someone. And our mentees and our mentors come from very diverse backgrounds. So we're always looking for mentors. Every year we recruit for mentors. Every year we have new mentees coming in. And then I'll share, we have mentees that repeat the program because maybe one year they were going through this specific goal, right? And then next year they're like, okay, now I have this goal. And I think, you know, I was eyeing this mentor last year and maybe they can be my mentor this year. So that happens too, right? So there's a lot of combinations within the program. So I just wanted to share that, dispel that myth, I guess, of mentors have to be these senior level executives to share their knowledge. I think I share that sometimes peer mentors are great too. Someone within your, you know, generation even can be your mentor. So we do have folks of all ages and backgrounds as our mentors, and we seek out diversity because that's the best way to learn. Anything to add, May? I know you kind of popped out just for a second, but anything you wanted to add to the conversation we're having?
No, I think you covered everything. Like the mentorship program really is a good way to, I mean, for a mentor to learn as well, because things do change in the workplace all the time. And for the mentees, having that support system is always helpful, like with your career goals. And putting a plug for Toastmasters here, like public speaking is something you need to work on, practice. It doesn't come naturally. So like finding a group that you are comfortable with practicing public speaking with is a great way to practice in a safe, low stakes environment, because you're not practicing at work. You're practicing during your off time. And with the Toastmasters clubs, each club does have its own personality. So we do encourage folks to check out different clubs to see what's a good fit for you. I know some clubs, they actually do like a press conference style where you would have a bunch of mics in front of you and you pretend you're on like an interview, live broadcast, and that's how you practice public speaking. But like for us, we're more casual. We just want to get together to provide a supportive and friendly group for anyone who wants to practice impromptu speaking or any speeches they want to do at work. Like we would be happy to be guinea pigs to provide feedback. So yeah, like highly recommend the mentorship program as well as our Toastmasters Club.
Thank you, May. What a great way to plug that. And then I did want to touch on something May mentioned was our members portal. So that is actually new for us. We've created an online portal where you actually gain access to our network, right? So the beautiful thing about this community that we're building is that we want you to connect with one another and share those resources and collaborate, right? Or ask folks questions. So we found that our network is huge, right? Our alumni network is over 1,000 people who have gone through our programs. But we want you all to be able to connect in a sense where maybe someone's in an industry, right, that you're looking to go into, or maybe there's someone who was a mentor way back when that you lost touch with and you're like, hey, I want to reconnect with them again, right? We want to be able to make that connection again. So we built a members portal. And so we're asking all of our members to join that portal to get the resources through the program. So if you're going to be joining the programs, either our mentorship or leadership, that's where we share our handouts and our materials and recordings for our workshops, but it's also where you can connect with one another, right? Think of it as AAPA's own LinkedIn is what we're trying to build. So it's all AAPA members and you get to essentially connect, chat, post stuff, find job opportunities, and gain handouts and resources. So if you want to become a member of our members portal, you have to be a member. So join a program, right? Support us as we grow. And then I will lastly share a resource is that we're going to have another info session specifically for our board leadership program. So folks who are curious about that, I know Eddie also mentioned that you're wanting to, you know, think about participating in our board leadership, which is, I would like to say, the pipeline that most folks do anyway. So we're going to have that. It's going to be on March 23rd. So it's actually, an exact month. We're on the 23rd today. So I just shared the link if you want to register for our board leadership program info session. And then for our mentorship program, so what we're talking about today, the deadline we've extended until the end of the month. And for the most part, some folks will join late, and we'll accept folks up until the orientation day, which is March 25th. Yes, if I remember correctly. Sorry. You'll see the dates listed on the website. And just real quickly, I'll run through like a quick timeline to give you an idea. I want to do a meet and greet right before the orientation. So it's just for folks who have joined the program and are mentors, and maybe some folks who are still thinking about it. If they wanted to meet folks before joining, this would be your opportunity. TBD on that date, it's probably going to come up in the next 2 weeks or so. And then orientation is where I get down to the nitty gritty, right? So I'll be your main contact person for the programs. In orientation, I run through the timeline. I run through what matching looks like. I run through what our workshop topics are projected to be, when they're projected to be, and what's expected of you, right, throughout the program. So we get really down to the meat of the program in our orientation day. And then that's where we do that speed dating that May was referring to. That part will help you with ranking your mentors. So again, we do the special matching process, right? We want you to meet each other. We want you to look each other up. We want you to share each other's resumes, right? We want you to align with the person that's going to be your mentee or mentor for the rest of the year. And then you submit your top 3 mentor choices. We ask the mentee to do this. The mentee sends us their top 3 mentors. What we do internally is that we go through and ask the mentor, do you want to be matched with this person? Right? And we kind of go through that line. And that's on like a rolling basis. Once they're submitted, I go through the work of matching the 2 together. Once you're matched, you get an email and you start that process. You get a handbook, right? And I stress reading the handbook because everything's in there. But that's what essentially matching would look like. And the rest is history. That's what orientation day looks like. And for the most part, you have your mentee, your mentor one-on-one conversations throughout the year, right? You work out that cadence yourselves. And then AAPA provides the workshops, events, and we create committees to ensure that you all stay connected. And of course, you have access to all of our other events and our network. But that is essentially everything in a nutshell. So if any other questions came up, please feel free to reach out to me. I think I popped my email in the chat if folks don't already have that, as well as the mentorship program link. If you're curious and want to become a mentor, you can pull that application up too and fill out that very short application form. And I will leave you all with an additional 4 minutes back, right? If folks don't have any last minute takeaways to add or last minute questions, I'll open the floor for 30 seconds. No, we're good. Everyone knows exactly what the mentorship program is all about. We did our job. Good job, Eddie. Thank you so much, May. We did it. And thank you, Edward Wong, for being here and talking about Toastmasters. And thank you all for sharing this space with us. Really appreciate you being here. And I'm excited to continue this next year with you all, hopefully. So thank you for your time. I'll give you 3 minutes back. Thanks, Eddie. Thanks, May.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Karen. Bye-bye.
Thank you.